Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Daily Lent Reflection. Today is Monday, March 19th, and it's the Monday in the fifth week of Lent. And our two scripture readings that we're reflecting on today come from Daniel 13, verse 1 to 62, and John 8, verses 1 to 11. Our opening quote comes from Daniel 13, verse 60. Quote, "The whole assembly cried out loud, blessing God who saves those that hope in him," end quote. And our reflection for today is the book of Daniel, Comfort and Hope. The story of Susanna in the Old Testament book of Daniel could easily be turned into a made-for-TV movie. It has all the ingredients. Susanna, a young married woman, very beautiful and God-fearing. Two prominent, prestigious, but promiscuous older men who lusted after Susanna, first separately, then as a team. And finally, Daniel, a handsome young man, wise beyond his years. As the story unfolds, Susanna is with her maids in her private garden and decides to take a bath in the warm water of the garden's pool. Meanwhile, two elders of the people, who had been appointed judges, were hiding in the garden and spying on the young woman. In due time, they approached her and said, quote, "Look, the garden doors are shut and no one can see us. Give in to our desires and lie with us. If you refuse, we will testify against you that you dismissed your maids because a young man was here with you," end quote. Without hesitation and with beautiful fidelity to the Lord and to her husband, Susanna refused their lecherous advances, emphasizing that, quote, "It is better for me to fall into your power without guilt than to sin before the Lord," end quote. True to their threats, the elders framed Susanna. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, quote, "The assembly believed them, since they were elders and judges of the people, and they condemned her to death," end quote. Enter Daniel. Quote, "As she was being led to execution, God stirred up the spirit of a young boy named Daniel," end quote. "He saw through the pretenses of the elders and showed how they testified falsely against her. By questioning them separately, he caught them in their lies." Quote, "For by their own words Daniel convicted them of perjury," end quote. The assembly sentenced them to death. The story concludes by noting that, quote, "Innocent blood was spared that day, and from that day on Daniel was greatly esteemed by the people," end quote. So what is the point of this story? The point can be best gleaned from the theme of the book of Daniel as a whole. The book's overriding theme is that Yahweh is the Lord of history, and that despite the distress and persecution the Jewish people were experiencing, he would ultimately vindicate his faithful people. Written in a time of actual persecution, the book of Daniel offers comfort and hope in their time of severe trial. This general theme is made specific in the person of Susanna. In dramatic fashion, the story points out that God is just and will ultimately vindicate the innocent. For the community of the church and for the individual Christian, the lesson is still of fundamental importance. It is an apt reminder of the saying of Jesus, quote, "Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of slander against you because of me," end quote. "Be glad and rejoice, for your reward is great in heaven. They persecuted the prophets before you in the very same way," end quote. And that's from Matthew 5:11, verse 11 and 12. The church of our day certainly knows the taste of persecution, and so do we as individuals, if we are trying to be faithful disciples of the Lord. The book of Daniel, the story of Susanna, rings with a message of enduring worth. Our faithful God will see us through persecution and trial and will bring us to final victory. And our closing prayer comes from Psalm 56, verses 3 to 5, and it is this: "O Most High, when I begin to fear, in you will I trust. In God, in whose promise I glory, in God I trust without fear. What can flesh do against me?" And our practice for today is this: today, while being aware of this trial in my Christian life, and then name it, whatever it may be, I will still renew my absolute trust in the Lord. So today, while being aware of this trial in my Christian life, I will still renew my absolute trust in the Lord. That's it for today. Have a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. God bless.